at this point, I think all of these couples should break up. Like, it's a wrap. Welcome back to the Miscellaneous channel where we do miscellaneous things. I'm Zenlenny. I typically cover TV, pop culture, internet trends, and other miscellaneous things on this channel, so subscribe if that's your vibe. I'm back for part 2, covering the Ultimatum queer love this time, because this last batch of episodes was eventful, to say the least. So today I'll be covering episodes 5 through 8, which cover the end of the first trial marriages, the changeover to the original couple's trial marriages, and even bleeds into a little bit of Ultimatum Day. And these episodes consisted of a lot of visiting with friends and family. Also, this cast was getting very comfortable with having fights in front of their friends and families. I feel like every couple at least had one big awkward fight in front of a friend or family member. And something that has surprised me so far is how my opinions and feelings about each contestant has changed so much from my first impressions video. I don't think there's ever been a season of a show where like everyone has changed so drastically. I was talking with my friends about this show and like realizing how wild and insane the concept of this show is. Like in real life, who would ever do this? Like giving your long-term relationship partner like a free pass to kind of cheat for a couple weeks and then expecting to get engaged after. If I sit and think about it too much, I get like existential. So let's not think about it. Let's just take it as it is. So starting with Vanessa and Rae. So this couple's not super romantic aside from the one night we've all heard about 1,000 times thanks to Lexi, where they had a bit of physical intimacy. It kind of feels like after they had that night together, they ended up just having a friendship relationship. And at first I thought it was cruel that Vanessa was saying like, oh, I have no romantic feelings for Rae. Like I just see her as a friend. Once we see them debrief after the hangout where everyone like attacked Vanessa and stuff, it feels like Rae also views Vanessa as just a friend. So it being more mutual feels like Vanessa was not out of line saying like, oh, I just see Rae as a friend. At least those two are on the same page, and they do have a lot to bond over because they were both issued ultimatums, and out of everybody, they're the most just unsure about the idea of marriage. I feel like in reality TV, it's hard to get past the first impression we have of a contestant. We as audiences love to categorize people as heroes and villains, and we like clear labels. For Vanessa, I do think she is attention seeking. I do think she's a bit selfish. I think she's perhaps like a toxic partner to Xander, or at least has been in the past. But all of those things I don't think make her an evil person. I don't think she's like malicious, trying to find ways to mess with the lives of anyone else on the cast. And I actually thought Vanessa was a pretty good sport about being attacked at the hangout when she was debriefing with Rae. Like she was like, that was awkward and didn't feel good, but she's like not like bogged down by it, and I don't know, she just took it well. I know some people might not like to hear that because people have made up their minds that she's like a fake person and stuff, but with everyone ganging up on you, it is a tough thing to go through, even if you like quote unquote deserved it or not. She just doesn't have like good answers when people are like confronting her. She at least stays there. She doesn't run away like some others on the cast. She tries to answer the questions, and she doesn't seem to hold grudges afterward either. Only once it starts involving Xander, Vanessa does start getting a little toxic. So I'm not absolving her, calling her a hero either. It's just like, I noticed she was a good sport. Once they're packing, Vanessa and Rae both seem like they're really dreading going back to their original partners, and not because they want to be with each other, but just because they know a lot is expected of them, that's going to be heavy. I just felt sad, especially for Rae, because like they're just trying to figure themselves out, and they're pretty young, and their partners are really wanting this very serious thing out of them. For all of these couples, I was feeling like the ultimatum was like really heavy. I think because a lot of this cast is more self-aware and feels like they have their reasons for either wanting or not wanting marriage, mostly for not wanting it for those that don't. That like the ultimatum idea feels wrong to do. Like it feels very pressury and heavy to put on a person, and it feels like if you have to do that, then maybe it's time to go separate ways. I've had comments in the past with people defending the idea of ultimatums and people that think they're not a good idea. Opinions vary on like the actual act of giving an ultimatum. In this season specifically, it doesn't feel good. But this show in particular has a whole other dimension because they're on reality TV, and that's like a whole other mindfuck probably. At the changeover dinner, each new couple reflects on what they learned during their 3 weeks trial marriage together. Rae said she learned a lot of lessons about being more independent. I thought Rae really spoke well about what she had learned. I felt proud of her. So Vanessa does get blindsided by the Xander situation, and we'll get to that. Vanessa at first starts out a little more tentative and is like, I think I'm closer to ready for marriage, but I don't know how to get the spark back for the relationship with Xander. It kind of seems like once Vanessa hears about Xander and Yoly's deep connection, I saw that spark come back in Vanessa. It was a spark of something. It looked kind of like competitive. Also, Vanessa has this moment of reading this apology letter to the group about how she acted. I don't know if I believe everything in the apology or if it is performative or not, because it's a little dramatic, but also people kept ganging up on her, so I understand why she would want to just give a formal apology to be in better standing with everybody. Also, Vanessa's not good at like giving answers to people. Like she always, I feel like, digs herself into a hole, so that kind of makes sense why she wants to write it out. But Yoly isn't having it, says her apology is performative, doesn't accept it, and Xander steps in again and defends Vanessa yet again. So next we have Lexi and Mal, and I feel so bad for Mal. This whole batch of episodes, like Mal continues to be such an MVP of relationships. She's probably the only one I haven't really changed my mind about and have only grown in love for her. After the Rae Vanessa incident happens, basically, Lexi is so worried about Vanessa at all times. Like, it's giving obsessed. I feel like by the end of Lexi and Mal's trial marriage, it was feeling like Mal was cool babysitter slash big sister energy to Lexi. It felt like Lexi kept expressing things to Mal and all her feelings and stuff, and Mal would just respond like, yeah, whatever you say, Lexi, now go play. It's not like that, and it wasn't like condescending. It was all in the face and these quick little moments. Mal was never disrespectful or mean or expressed this. It's just like how I read into her expressions. It was feeling like Mal was just a little over it. I think Mal just got worn down by all this Vanessa talk. Lexi just thinks Vanessa's just this evil mastermind, like purposely plotting against her and Rae, when Vanessa has way bigger fish to fry with Xander's situation. That, like, I'm sure Lexi is not a thought in Vanessa's mind, or Rae for that matter. Like, she's friendly with her, but it's very strange how Lexi's so obsessed. I wonder if Lexi's a Swiftie with how much she is overanalyzing, looking for clues that maybe are there, maybe aren't. Lexi and Mal meet Lexi's parents. Again, Lexi brings up the Vanessa stuff. Same old, same old. I just thought it was so bizarre that Lexi would like out Rae and say like she fucked Vanessa basically to her parents. I'm just like, oh, I don't want my parents knowing anything about anything. I swear Mal is the queen of reactions. There's one point where Lexi says to her parents like, I see Mal being in my life forever. And Mal just gives this look of like, that's news to me. But Mal does say like Lexi is so supportive, that they're on the same page on a lot of things. She talked about her hair, which is a good conversation to have, and how Lexi has been supportive about that. So it's not like Lexi hasn't done anything. I just feel like the vibe I got by the end wasn't super romantic, but they still like have a good connection and relationship. Lexi and Mal also meet Mal's friend Alicia, and I loved Alicia. She was confused, gooped and gagged, shocked, confused, because Mal is like, this is my wife, Lexi, and Alicia's just like, hello, where's Yoly? We're like, she got kidnapped or something. This is the correct reaction to this wild process. Like, who would do this? Who would do this? I don't know. She's like straight up scared that Mal is in a get out situation. And she actually warns Lexi and tells her like, Mal is just a really nice person. That's tea. And was basically like, don't confuse her being nice for her like having full feelings for you. And poor Alicia, like, this meeting was cake compared to when she talks to Mal and Yoly later on. At the changeover, Lexi and Mal do their reflections, and Lexi mentions how Mal comforted her so much during the whole Rae debacle, and Yoly's like, I've never seen that side of Mal. Yoly, I'll get to that. So yeah, Lexi and Mal seem to have like a not super romantic relationship, but a nice connection. I do think it's very attributed to Mal. Next is Yoly and Xander. Yoly and Xander, oh my god. This couple is this is the only couple I'm like somewhat rooting for. Like, I think they should probably be together, and I think that's what's gonna happen. This couple is just so obsessed with each other. It kills me. Like, how could this happen? And I don't blame Xander as much, because I feel like in this trial marriage, Xander is getting something they were missing from Vanessa for so many years. It feels like Xander is just now discovering stability, trust, healthy communication, wanting the exact same things as your partner. And so I understand why Xander would prefer Yoly. But Yoly, I'm like, why are you falling so? This is not the point of the experiment. And also Yoly like gave the ultimatum, so you would think she was very sure about marrying Mal. She's not the one trying to decide if she wants to get married or not. It's just like wild. So that's why I side-eye Yoly more. It seems like she has a good situation with Mal. Also, Mal is like a lot closer than Vanessa is to marriage. She was just trying to wait to get her finances in order, while Vanessa is over here grappling with the concept of monogamy, which is like way further. So that's why I'm like, okay, Xander, I get it. I'm rooting for Xander to just not be with Vanessa at all. They've been together for 4 years. At that point, it's just like, we'll get to them, but we're talking about Xander and Yoly, and they cannot keep their hands off each other. Did anyone else notice the huge kiss mark on Xander's neck when they're after the hangout party? There, Yoly spills the tea about what's been going on with Vanessa and Rae. Xander is kind of like taken aback at first, but then is kind of over it pretty quick, and it invites Yoly to bed, and they go to bed. And again, they remain busy in the bedroom, as I said in the first part. They meet up with Xander's friend Blair, and I loved this because Blair was obsessed with Yoly and seeing Xander with Yoly. That's where you can tell that Vanessa's probably not a great partner, because Blair is a close friend, has seen Xander and Vanessa interact a lot. She basically preferred Yoly to Vanessa in the end, and doesn't like how Vanessa acts up to get attention. And there's a point where Yoly leaves, because they always make, you know, someone leave the conversation to have a more one-on-one thing. And Xander says, I think I'm falling in love with Yoly. And Blair's kind of like, you think? Like, I think you are. This was the most key moment for me to like confirm that like Vanessa's probably not a great partner to Xander. I know we had seen examples of it, but on TV it's hard to trust what you're seeing, and we don't know the 4 years they spent together. We don't know if like it is mostly good moments in those 4 years. But Blair, the friend, confirmed that like Vanessa's probably just not a good match for Xander, and Yoly is a much better match. It says a lot that like Blair is happy with Yoly right away. So Xander and Yoly just have these cute as fuck date nights all the time. They do tie-dyeing shirts. This is where they say I love you to each other. Mind you, it's been 2 freaking weeks of knowing each other. And they both say they've known for a long time. Define a long time. 10 days, girl? They're living in their own honeymoon fantasy land as if like they already got married and no one else exists. Once they're packing on their last night, this couple was the only like really sad couple about leaving each other. Even the poor dog, Margot, was sad. They're both very nervous because they don't know how they're gonna tell their exes like about them being in love, literally. The changeover dinner is very awkward for Yoly and Xander because they get to hear every single couple reflect on their time and talk about like the little physical intimacy things they did. With Vanessa and Rae, it's the biggest scandal of the dinner. Like, they had an intimate night. We finally get to Yoly and Xander's turn, and they avoid discussing the physical intimacy like no other. Yoly and Xander have been having sex like every night. Everyone else is just like, we did not even kiss. We did not even hold hands. Xander says they've realized like fun is secondary to them and the stability and like the serious stuff is now priority. They both say they could see each other as the future, to the point where Mal has to like interject and be like, Yoly, are you even excited to come back? And this is where the spark switched for Vanessa. She started saying like, I am ready for marriage. I want Xander. Says her heart is broken. Like, she starts pulling out all the stops. Ándale, as my mom would say. Now that you're losing Xander, you're all in for marriage. The power dynamics really shift with Xander and Vanessa, and that defines their trial marriage. So next is Aussie and Mildred, and they had a really troubled trial marriage. From here on out, Aussie basically physically runs away from every conversation they try to have with anybody. With Mildred, after that hangout night, Aussie comes home and Mildred starts wanting to have a conversation about their relationship and how they communicate. Mildred, I can tell at least she's really trying, and I think Mildred looked worse in the first batch of episodes, and like she had a few redeeming moments in this batch. With Aussie, I feel like she was trying to hold back her tone so much. Aussie runs away, and Mildred's pretty over it. I mean, she has nothing to lose, really. She does say she's invested so much emotional energy into Aussie, and I'm like, have you though? Like, yeah, you've dealt with this annoying thing about them that you don't like, but like, it's been a couple weeks. And so the next day after that, Aussie moves out and packs up and leaves. They leave a note. Aussie in general is very conflict avoidant. Like, can't even say like I'm moving out or pack when she's there. As far as Mildred goes, Mildred sees that Aussie left, and at first she's like, I have no emotion about this. And then 5 minutes later, she's crying. She gets reminded of her abandonment issues. She has some childhood trauma. Like, I get that she has her own stuff. It's just like she also needs to learn to communicate. But she wasn't given much opportunity here because Aussie would just run away immediately. Aussie definitely seemed a lot more avoidant and immature in this batch of episodes, and it was unfortunate because I thought it was more of like a Mildred problem, but we see Aussie with Sam, and they end up having very similar issues. At the dinner, it remains awkward because Mildred and Aussie haven't talked. I mean, Aussie has avoided her completely, ran away. Aussie tries to say like Mildred was passive aggressive. We didn't get to see her prove herself to be improving at communication because Aussie would run away. So it's kind of hard to say if Mildred like had any growth. At least at the dinner, Aussie does admit that they need to work on communication, which is something. We see later that there's not much of a plan of action. And finally, we have Tiff and Sam, and they start out having kind of similar issues to Mildred and Aussie, but Sam is really gentle, patient, and Tiff is pretty good at reflecting on their outbursts. So by the second week or so, they are having a much more friendly dynamic. They had this conversation in the car that was so funny because Sam was like, oh, I love Beauty and the Beast. That's my favorite Disney princess. And then she realizes like, wait, that's kind of my life. And I think that's a really good analogy for the role Sam plays in her relationships. And I thought it was so ironic that Tiff asked Sam, like, what is the most sexy name and the least sexy name in your opinion? And they're talking about names like Bertha and Gertrude. And you know what third name goes perfectly with those? Mildred, like... And I forgot to mention this in my last video, but I was just like, this lady is too hot to be named Mildred. Like, how did that happen? So we gotta have a moment for Natasha because she is amazing. And I've already seen a lot of praise for her, so I know I'm not alone in this. But Natasha needs to be the host of the show. She at first was confused. She's similar to Alicia, Mal's friend. She was like, where's Mildred? And she even says like, this whole thing makes no sense. The relationship should just end. Thank you, girl. Like that's what we're all saying. Why are you on this ridiculous show? Anyway, so then Natasha gets into the juicy questions and she does it in such a way that is like so direct and getting all the tea for us. Like we have to thank her for getting the tea. But she's asking these semi-invasive questions, but in a way that's totally not disrespectful, which is crazy. She starts asking Tiff and Sam if they've gotten physically intimate. Are they hooking up? And then when they say no, she's like, why not? She's just so rational. She's like, well, if you're doing this trial marriage, don't you have to test drive the car? Why don't you just hold hands right now? Like, take one step. Tiff refuses, so Natasha offers to hold Sam's hand. And it's... like, imagine a reunion hosted by Natasha with these types of questions that like get right down to the tea, but at the same time aren't super rude like Vanessa and Rae. Netflix still needs to take notes of like, this is a type of person you need as a host, not just some pretty face that you recognize from a couple of TV movies. I'd be so happy if Natasha was the host. I saw on social media that she is getting a lot of love from the fans. She did this like thank you video from like Italy, like go off girl. I'm glad she's thriving. And yeah, Tiff and Sam ended up having a pretty decent relationship. It kind of felt like after that first couple weeks and the tantrums, the dog thing, it kind of feels like Tiff detoxed Mildred out of their system. And by the end, Tiff and Sam were kind of sad to leave each other. Obviously, their connection was a lot more platonic and friendly because they ended up not getting intimate. They did not listen to Miss Natasha's advice, sadly. So going back to the original couples, and we have Vanessa and Xander. At the dinner, like I said, Vanessa started pulling at all the stops. The power dynamic totally flipped between them, and now Vanessa is in win back Xander mode the rest of their trial marriage. I did not get the impression that at the end of her trial marriage with Rae, like she was fully all in, ready for marriage. Maybe a little closer to like being okay with the idea of marriage, but like not ready. But now when Vanessa goes home with Xander, she's like, I'm all in, I'm ready for marriage. I want it right now. I want kids, I want everything. And it just feels like a total 180 from when she started, to the point where like, I don't believe it. At the beginning of this, Vanessa thought Xander was asexual. And now Xander is very seriously in love with someone else. It was a big wake-up call for Vanessa. So now she's in desperation trying to save the relationship. I think it's fake in that it's not true to herself. And it's not that I think it's fake because it's like she's trying to put on a show for TV. It's like a fake that's more like she might be in denial to herself about it and is just like saying what she knows will get Xander to stay. Vanessa really wants to know how physically intimate Xander and Yoly got. And again, Xander refuses to answer. Vanessa's like, more than once? Girl, if you only knew. Xander's gone, girl. I'm sorry to tell you. I just think it's one of those things where Vanessa did not treat Xander the best when she thought Xander was all hers. And now she's paying the price. I think she's too late to save this. Later, we see them have a conversation in the park where they discuss this. Apparently, Vanessa's going through Xander's phone, which, again, toxic behavior. She said they had free reign of each other's phones before, and she went in, saw messages with Yoly, saw that they were perhaps flirty in nature. And Xander does call her out, saying, like, you're just saying you're ready for marriage, but are you ready? Like, questioning why Vanessa has done such a big 180. Vanessa just keeps doubling down, saying she is ready, and she says I love you to Xander, and Xander doesn't say it back immediately, and Vanessa's like, fucking say it back. I was like, oh, this is bad. I feel bad for Vanessa because she is always getting ganged up on and like painted to be so evil. But she is a toxic partner to Xander, at least. Vanessa, trying to win over Xander, does this very romantic hot air balloon date. It was kind of the vibe of, you know, when you take a date to a horror movie in order to have an excuse to cuddle them during the scary parts. Like, the hot air balloon was an excuse to, like, cuddle together and get closer, you know, from, like, the danger of it all. Which, like, I forgot about hot air balloons. Like, I just forget they exist, I guess. That seems really scary. I was thinking of the poor cameraman up there having to like be just holding on for dear life, but also like getting a working and getting a professional shot. So again, Vanessa writes another letter. She stays writing letters these episodes saying she's fully all in, ready for marriage, ready for kids with Xander, that she had been selfish, that she's ready to commit, that she just wants a fair chance. Xander appreciates the letter, and Xander agrees to not talk to Yoly anymore and just like finish out the trial marriage with Vanessa, only Vanessa. And Vanessa again pushes Xander to be like, just me, you promise? And they end up kissing. They have this dinner where Xander asks Vanessa like, okay, so you're ready for marriage. What does marriage mean to you now? And Vanessa's just like, I don't know, I guess I'll take it as I go kind of answer. Basically, Vanessa did not have a good answer here because she's not ready for marriage. Like, she's just saying whatever she needs to say. So, like, when Xander asks actual specific questions about marriage and how her views have changed, like, Vanessa doesn't have good answers. And so they have this hangout. And I had forgotten to talk about this in the Yoly and Xander section. I should have, but it's later, so bear with me. We're taking a momentary break from Vanessa and Xander to talk about Xander and Yoly again. They have a group hangout, as they do. Yoly and Xander are trying to talk to each other a lot of the night. They are still obsessed with each other. They're kind of like holding hands at certain points. Like, they're not afraid to be kind of touchy-feely. So Mal and Vanessa talk with Xander and Yoly, and Mal is mad because, like, not only is Vanessa going through Xander's phone, Vanessa's also going and tattling on Yoly to Mal, saying like, Yoly and Xander are talking, just letting you know. It could be seen as like a nice sisterly solidarity move to make sure like Mal is aware of what's going on. But at the same time, Mal is definitely a lot more mature and trusting of her partner, which at this point maybe she shouldn't be, but like it feels like it's Mal's values and principles to like trust her partner. And so she's not going through Yoly's phone, and she just asks Yoly directly, what are these DMs about? Vanessa mentions this selfie situation, or like asking for a selfie. Yoly and Xander are just like, oh, it was just, that wasn't anything. It was just like, I just asked for a shirtless picture of Xander to check if she had any suspicious moles that need to be checked. It wasn't quite that, but it was like excuses upon excuses. And I guess we'll get to them, but as far as Xander and Vanessa go, like, Xander kind of seems like it's up to Yoly who Yoly wants to marry. At that point, Xander just feels really disconnected from Vanessa, or like the idea of marriage with Vanessa. And I was confused. Xander and Vanessa talked after the event, and Xander was like, I was so proud of you for how you handled yourself. Because Vanessa did handle herself well for like the chaos that was going on in her relationship. Xander kind of made it seem like they're not sure what they're gonna choose. They're still between Vanessa and Yoly, so it's like somebody's lying in this love triangle or square, whatever it is. Anyway, I think Vanessa's dad summed it up perfectly. Like, I could have just quoted him for this section. They talk about all their issues, talk about Xander liking Yoly, and how Vanessa is so ready now for marriage. The dad sees through the bullshit, says he's been through this before in a past relationship, and that like when you feel like you're losing someone, you might try to win them back, but it's really from a place of ego and your ego being broken rather than a place of like actually wanting marriage or whatever you're saying to the person. It was just like such a good, precise call out for what Vanessa was doing, and Vanessa disagrees. This man has lived a long life and had relationships. You can tell he just sees through the situation and understands it. Also, again, Vanessa's very open, saying like, I didn't have as much sex as Xander. Why are you saying this in front of your dad, girl? The last night is pretty emotional. Vanessa's pretty sad about, you know, the 4 years they had together. Xander becomes more present a little bit after that party hangout, but at the same time feels a little detached. Next we have Yoly and Mal, and we've already covered some of them. Like I said, like these couples are so intertwined at this point. Yoly and Mal are tough because Mal learned a lot from her time with Lexi and is ready to commit. Mal was not that far off from wanting marriage, and it doesn't feel like this last-ditch effort the way Vanessa's does. There might be some of that playing into it, but it feels like she genuinely thought about it a lot and is ready. But Yoly, I feel like she was just hoping that she would come back and Mal would be the same old Mal, not ready for marriage. And Yoly could just be like, well, Xander's ready, so bye, Mal. But no, unfortunately for Yoly, Mal started to really showing up in their relationship, giving this really good effort to the trial marriage and doing all these things for Yoly, yet Yoly doesn't feel like has any spark left with Mal. And Mal is really understanding about Yoly falling in love with a whole other person in less than a month, which is more understanding than most people would be. I stand Mal so much because she's just like, that's sad to hear for me. I don't love you any less. I still love you very much. I'm still ready to do this with you, but my ego is bruised. Like, it takes such a big person to admit that like your ego is bruised. And in the moment, while like the information is coming to light, and like immediately Mal is like, that hurts my ego. Her and Vanessa are in very similar situations, but you can see the difference of like Mal being this like grounded, self-aware person that like understands herself and her feelings and can really articulate them. And she did warn us at the beginning that Yoly falls in love fast, and she does. Oh my god. Mal is always proving too that like she knows Yoly really well. That worry was a very real concern. Later on, they're ordering pizza and Mal is like, oh, that's your sad girl food. Why are you sad? I'm just like, Mal just needs to go find someone worthy of her. Someone must be out there. And now she's on TV, so like hopefully people are flocking to her because Mal deserves a really great partner. And Yoly's main problems with Mal are just like that Mal sometimes isn't super clean or on top of kind of the household. She was really mad about using the backup one-ply toilet paper and that Mal would allow that to happen. When they meet up with Alicia way later on, Alicia's straight up like, this does not feel real when they're talking about how Yoly is in love with Xander now. Once Yoly walks away, Alicia and Mal are just like, this is trash. And I'm like, you tell him, because yeah, this is trash. Alicia can't understand how 3 weeks measures up to 3 years. Same, what the hell? This is where they also talk about kids, and Yoly brings up that she's concerned about Mal as a co-parent. And Mal is shocked by this because she's like, I've been asked to be a godparent a lot. And then Yoly reveals the key detail, the key information of why she loves Xander so much. Xander's bank account. This is more my theory. I'm speculating here, but I'm like, Yoly saw how ready Xander was financially, emotionally too, for all that commitment. And she just liked the idea of that life. She does deny it when Mal is like, wait, so this is about finances? Maybe it is about finances. And maybe that's part of why Yoly is so intrigued by Xander and wanting to make a family with them. I'm not saying she's a gold digger either. I'm mostly exaggerating, but like, I do feel like it plays a part. And since Yoly wants kids so bad, kids are expensive, like it all just seems to be easy for her to like get her dream fast. While Mal is still like saving up for all that. Yoly doesn't believe that Mal is saving up for all that. So it's like, and it's so sad because Mal is just like an outstanding partner, like full of trust. I was so heartbroken when Yoly was like, I want to go talk to Mildred. Just let me go talk to Mildred. But don't come. I don't want you in the conversation. Mal is just like, is this just like a trust you situation? And Yoly's like, yeah, just trust me. And then Yoly goes to cuddle up with Xander basically, or talk. Yoly was being kind of two-faced in these moments and kind of taking advantage of how trusting Mal is as a partner. After that hangout party, Mal actually breaks finally. Yoly says that she loves both of them, but the romance isn't quite there with Mal. Yoly sometimes refers to Mal as feeling like a roommate, which is pretty fucked up. Yoly says that Mal is not a hell yes for her, and Xander is closer to being a hell yes. And that's the breaking point for Mal, and she's like, you want us to Squid Game for your heart? Like, what do you want? And Mal says, like, they're done with this whole thing. They always on these reality shows show the contestant being like, I'm done with this. I'm done with all of this. And I never know if they mean the relationship, the TV show, the scene, the interview. I don't think she's done with it because later on we see her back. Mal asked for Yoly's parents' blessing. This is such a nice gesture that even Yoly was like, oh wow, that was nice. This girl is gonna change her mind at any moment. Like, I don't know where Yoly is headed. They're the only couple we see them go to their ultimatum day decision. Yoly looks torn. Mal does propose. Yoly does seem a little cold and distant, and we don't get to see her answer, but I do think it's a no. In the preview, we see her crying, walking alone away. We see her hugging Mal, I think is gonna be like the goodbye hug. And then we see her kissing and hugging Xander. It's not clear what it's gonna be because what if Xander goes for Vanessa? Or Xander doesn't want to be with Yoly for some reason. I don't know. How gaggy would it be if Yoly said no to Mal and then went to Xander and Xander's engaged to Vanessa? At least if Yoly's gonna say no to Mal, she should just go with Xander. I just do worry for Xander's sake. I know this is a very specific scenario, but like in the back of my mind, if I was Xander, I'd be like, how easy would it be for Yoly to lose the spark here? I can't wait to see how this turns out, regardless. So next we have Lexi and Rae, and I want them to break up so bad. Lexi did like a whole 180 for me because I liked her. She seemed like really cool at first, but she will not let their relationship move on from the Vanessa thing. Every conversation they have, she finds a way to remind Rae of what she did, put her down about it, say how much it hurt her, call Vanessa an evil bitch that's trying to ruin her life. Lexi feels she can't trust Rae at all. Lexi needs to be like Elsa and say with me, let it go. Either just walk away from the whole relationship or like let it go and move on. Every conversation Lexi and Rae have, Rae ends up in tears, like sad about herself. I thought it was funny that Lexi and Rae had a beach date and we had seen Rae do a beach date with Vanessa that was so fun and frolicking in the ocean and all that, and then the one with Lexi was all like really negative, somber energy. Rae talks about how she like didn't want to do this experiment at all. She has actually on social media also been talking about how like it was all Lexi's idea. You can feel what you want about ultimatums in real life, but like it's a whole different thing to do this really weird televised entertainment ultimatum situation. Like, those are two different things. And I think the TV one is a lot weirder. So I was rudely interrupted by my partner, Cameron, and I took the opportunity to ask him his thoughts on the ultimatum, and he was clueless as usual.
What is the ultimatum show?
Cameron! I actually love the beach date with Lexi and Rae. The moment where Rae was like, what am I doing? Who am I? That's literally me asking myself why I review these shows on YouTube. Felt like a glimpse of a real moment. They go see Lexi's parents, and this was like the most awkward of the awkward fights in front of friends and family, because Lexi again mentions Rae having sex with Vanessa right in front of her parents and starts fighting with Rae about it. Honestly, Rae is a good sport through all this. Like, says all the right things, says she regrets it, but Lexi's like, but why do you regret it? It has to be the right why. They had gone into this like saying they were free to be physically intimate with others. Like, they had not promised each other. Lexi's parents ganged up on Rae too, and everyone was like attacking her, and that's why I'm like, Rae kept her cool as much as she could in that weird ass situation. And I kind of feel like the trial marriage thing was like a secret test to Lexi. If Rae cheats on me here, then she's not choosing me and not ready for marriage. Like, it felt like that kind of like mental like testing of your partner, where it's not like communicated directly, and it's just like, let me see what she does in the situation, and like, I won't tell her that I'll be upset, but at the same time get mad if she fails the test, you know? And after the group hangout party, it gets even worse. Rae and Lexi both say hi to Vanessa and everyone else there in this very brief, quick way. Afterwards, Lexi's pissed at Rae for making eye contact with Vanessa. Rae is trying to do all the right things, but it's never good enough for Lexi. Sorry, bestie, you probably should just break up with Rae if nothing she does is gonna be good enough for you. This is ridiculous. Lexi's insecurity is showing majorly, and Rae ends up crying again. Rae ends up crying every conversation they have, almost. They have these few in-between moments, but most of the conversation end up with Rae in tears and Lexi just on the attack about very ridiculous things. On their last night, they go to dinner, and Lexi at one point is like, it's okay, you can talk about Vanessa. It feels like a total trap, and Rae does not fall for the trap. And I feel like it was another moment of Lexi trying to test her. I just don't think Lexi and Rae should be together. I think Lexi has shown her age in these last few episodes. Just expecting these crazy things out of your partner that are irrational. Rae at least has self-discovered a bit, found a little bit of independence, and I think is starting to see it, but it's also hard because she didn't want to go on the show. They had a 3-year-long relationship, but I hope Rae stands her ground and just says like, you know what, I'm not ready, and I'm not just gonna be manipulated into being ready. I could see them going through with it. Maybe there's a lot of good moments that the edit isn't showing us, but from what I've seen, I don't prefer them together. So next we have Mildred and Tiff, and this is another couple I don't want together. They start getting intimate right away, of course. They mentioned sex is very important in their relationship. It's kind of like the best thing, one of the best things about it. They meet up with Natasha again. I was so glad to see Natasha again. She's the one that gets that answer from them about the therapist giving up on them. The good thing about Tiff now is that they're recognizing their communication issues and calling out that Mildred is always interrupting them, that they would break up like 50 times a year. They have this chat by the fire. This is where Mildred pulls out the Latina card, says, oh, I speak over people because I'm Latina and I'll never stop being a Latina. And I'm glad Tiff called it out, because being respectful has no race. I'm a Latina myself, and I understand what Mildred's talking about, or sort of referring to, about how families have loud voices and there's a lot of talking over each other. That does not mean that the tone is passive aggressive or that you're cutting off someone saying something very important. Definitely using it as an excuse, and Mildred tries throwing everything at the wall as an excuse. And they have a fight here, and Tiff says they're done talking about fucking marriage. A lot of their conversations end like this, and I'm like, what is the point? What is the point of having this relationship? They do have more calm conversations at the pool where Tiff raises their concerns again. Tiff reiterates, like, I've shown love by staying in this relationship so many times, and Mildred recognizes it. She's always had problems having adult relationships, that she has to blame herself sometimes, and I don't know if I fully buy it from Mildred just from what we've seen, but at least it felt like she was trying and at least acknowledging and reflecting on her actions. I just feel like as soon as like someone says one thing she doesn't like, she escalates really fast and gets combative. They also talk a little bit about Mildred's son and how she's really patient with him, really caring and loving. It was just like a nice little redeeming moment of Mildred. On the final night together, they discuss like why Mildred married her ex-wife. Again, Tiffany mentions like, do you just like the concept of marriage? Because Mildred insists like, oh, I was confused when I got married. I never loved that person. Tiff is like, well, how do I know you're not doing that to me right now? Tiff really came out like knowing a lot more, articulating their emotions well. I don't think Mildred is all the way there. And finally, we have Aussie and Sam, our last couple, and man, I really changed my mind on them. I was rooting for them at first, but now I think they need to not be together. Aussie ends up having very similar problems that they were having with Mildred. Sam comes out of her relationship with Tiff like good at articulating her feelings and communicating directly about what she needs. Aussie does see a change in Sam, and Sam recognizes it too. Aussie, just at the mention of Mildred, breaks down and runs away. Sam is such an angel. I've also like really grown to love her. Sam says she's not down to settle for Aussie running away like this all the time and enabling Aussie's behavior, which was the big breakthrough that Sam had. They meet Aussie's brother, and you start seeing why Aussie might be the way they are. It's just like none of their family knows about their sexuality. I think Aussie just has so much trauma and self-work to do that they're not ready for this, to give Sam what she wants in a relationship. They have lunch with a friend, and again, another couple picking a fight in front of a friend, the friend's trying to facilitate. Aussie is like contradicting themselves, saying like, Sam is so different now, she's the new Sam, but also saying Sam has had no growth and hasn't changed at all. Aussie ends up running away from the whole lunch and doesn't even talk to Sam again. Aussie's breakdown there was so sad. It's just like, I think there's just a lot of trauma there that needs to be resolved in therapy, or you know, something that Sam is, it's not her job to heal Aussie and figure out how to get them to a good place. Sam is always trying to like have a genuine conversation and make progress, and Aussie just like turns and puts up a wall and like starts getting angry and then runs away. Sam is literally like, how are you gonna change to make a successful marriage? And Aussie's literally like, why are you asking me such a dumb question? And it's like, what? Before this, Sam would just enable this and like comfort Aussie, and now Aussie's mad that Sam isn't complacent. And so Aussie does run away all the way outside, but then ends up coming back because they're like, oh, I don't want to give up on Sam completely. It's a pretty exhausting cycle that like Sam is finally realizing she doesn't want to settle for. And I'm so proud of Sam, like good for her. Similar to Lexi and Rae, like we see good moments with them here and there. Less good moments, I think. I don't know. We saw very few good moments for anybody. I just don't think they're very compatible at this point. I feel bad not rooting for any couple at this point, but like they all have their own reason for like why I don't think they're a good fit. Those were episodes 5 through 8, and I'm rooting for nobody. Are y'all rooting for anybody? I mean, I guess I'm rooting sort of for Yoly and Xander, which is wild because they're a new couple. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Y'all left some good comments. There was one comment about episodes 1 through 4 about the commenter didn't trust Lexi. Their comment really made me think that commenter's intuition was right. And I guess I'll see you after the finale or reunion if there is one. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed. I put out new videos whenever I feel like it about TV, pop culture, internet trends, and other miscellaneous things. And you can follow me at Miscellaneous on Instagram or Twitter to find out about new videos, or just turn on the bell notification here on YouTube. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!